It's Jeremy from jeremy.net. So I am doing my monthly figure drawing purge where I go through drawings I've done in figure drawing class from the previous month, pick out the ones I'm going to post to my blog, and just give you a tour of the figure drawing work I've been doing to improve my draftsmanship. So first I've got some drawings on toned paper, and I actually kind of like the one on the right. Like, it's very loose and scrappy. The thing I've found is that I probably shouldn't do toned paper on like 5-minute poses because there's not enough time to really get in and draw detail and refine it. And, working with I didn't even get a chance to work any of the white on the toned paper, and the dark areas aren't super dark. But anyway, I do kind of like just the gesture of the thigh on this one and the foreshortening on this part. So it's got a nice energy to it, even though it's not particularly finished drawing. So I think I'll put that one in. I don't think I'll put this one in because it's very simplistic, but there's just there's a lot of lack of structure to it. The gesture is interesting, but it's too unfinished. And I don't mind having an unfinished drawing if it has something interesting going on in the picture, but in this case, it's both unfinished and, it doesn't have that little zing, black magic to it. This one, again, it's poor figure drawing. I didn't really use the white effectively in terms of creating a solid sense. Like, you can tell that's lit from the front right, but it's very patchy. I didn't really unify my light sides and my dark sides. And, yeah, it's just, kind of ghosty, but not particularly solid. So far, I actually haven't been particularly happy with my tone paper drawings this session. This one, I'm not going to post that one because it's got some notes on there from my instructor for the class. This one, virtually unfinished. I can't remember if this was a 5-minute or a 10-minute post, but I really got nothing in there, no structure, way out of proportion. So a lot of these were not coming along well. This one, I think I'll post. Got a little bit better at convincing the sense of light and mass. The fact of like having the light being stronger up at the higher part of the shoulder and then getting darker as it goes down the arm, but still having that sense of a top surface versus a side surface that's facing away from the light. And I didn't really get to describe that in the rest of the forearm. So I spent a lot of the time in the drawing working on this forearm or the upper arm. The face, not one of my better faces, but overall I do like the feel of that drawing, so we'll put that one in. Let's see, this one, we've got a male model. The pose was really nice because it gave us a sense of like, I didn't capture all of the things that I liked about the pose, which was that he was on his back, slightly arched, you got a nice dip with the abs, and then the pelvis flattening out, and his legs, one coming out foreshortened and one going up. The pose was a great pose. I didn't capture any of that or the foreshortening that was going on with the arm going into the shoulder, or rather the arm coming out at us. So it could have been a great drawing. I saw it was in there, but I didn't capture it. One of the things that I've been thinking about lately is actually going a little bit slower, or maybe even a lot slower. This one I think I will put in because this one does feel like it's strongly lit. Whenever I feel like the lighting is describing and adding to the pose as opposed to me putting white on just for the sake of it, those are the things that I enjoy. This one is still too loose. It's not a solid enough mass that I have going on in here in terms of describing the major volumes. But I do actually like the lighting pattern that I've got going on in there. The elbow's a little wonky, but it's interesting to me anyway. But what I was going to say is that when you're doing time poses, when you're drawing for 5 minutes, 10s, 15s, you're usually trying to get the whole figure. And I am starting to feel like, let me adjust this, the camera's a bit askew there. I have been feeling like, because there's just basic areas of the torso that I'm not getting the gesture, the twist, the posture between the rib cage and the pelvis, and a lot of the poses I draw, that the drawings to the rest of everything else I put in it feels unfinished. And I'm thinking, as opposed to rushing to get a drawing feeling complete in the allotted time, that maybe what I really need to do is slow down And I'm like, if I'm gonna 5-minute pose and all I'm gonna draw is just the rib cage, like at least indicate where the rest of the limbs are and the proportion of them with simple boxes and cylinders, but then really try to dial in and just work on the torso until I can draw a torso solidly, very quickly from whatever angle. And then basically give every other body part the same treatment over time. And these are things that I feel like, and by the way, this one I'm not going to put in. Again, just patchy, non-descriptive. Some kind of interesting things going on with the pecs and the foreshortening here. This is better foreshortening than I've done with most of the tone drawings, but doesn't do it for me. Same with this. This one, and by the way, I don't want this to just sound like, oh, I'm bitching about my art and I want people to tell me, oh, it's actually not that bad. That's not the point of this. This is purely self-criticism for the sake of analysis and improving it. So I'm pointing out the things that I'm dissatisfied with. Like in this drawing, the only thing I actually feel is satisfying is this hand and the transition into the wrist. Everything else, just lumpy. It's lumpy. It doesn't feel solid with a top, front, and side. And that's the thing I'm trying to get to, is describing that more. And that goes back to what I was saying about torsos in general, or body parts in general, that even though I've been studying drawing for a long time, sometimes you need to go back to your fundamentals. This drawing very strongly gives a sense of a dark side and a light side, and it describes the volumes of those. And other than the fact that the volume of the deltoid is a little too similar to the volume I've got going here on the bicep, so it's sort of like da-da, 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 a little bit too repetitive. I need to work on massaging that. But otherwise, this is more of what I'm trying to go for, is making things feel solid. You've got a front, you've got a top, and you've got a side. Either way, adding that cube-like volume to any particular element I'm drawing. Down here, it's kind of interesting, although the thigh was flattening out on the chair that it was resting on, and then the part of the leg that was out a little bit further drops down. But in this, I don't think I really conveyed that squash and stretch. And I also feel like the way that this kind of drops off, it might have been because the hand is pressing into the surface a little bit, but there's something a little bit about the lighting pattern in this area that doesn't describe exactly what I wanted to. That said, this one is going in. I actually am rather pleased with this drawing. This is one of the few tone drawings I did over this month that I did enjoy. Yeah, and that's all for tone paper, or for tone drawings. So now we'll go on to the stuff that's on newsprint. And I keep dropping in and out of discussing speed. And what I was trying to get at before, and to pick that up, is, yes, even though I've been drawing for many years, I still have a lot of things, technically, that I need to improve on. And sometimes you need to step back and say, all right, if my torso still feels wonky, I can't just say, oh, well, they should just be better. It means I need to go back to fundamentals that I've studied before and almost treat it. I don't think you should be afraid as an artist to go back and say, all right, what if I were starting to learn how to figure draw today? Instead of, like, if you've been drawing for 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 years, 5 decades, if you're finding that you're having problems, the way I'm trying to look at it is, what if I were deciding to just pick up drawing now, figure drawing? What would I need to go back and study? And say, all right, if the things I'm doing, the fundamentals are wonky, then I need to go back and look at those. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do now, is get myself into the mindset of being willing to go back and revisit the basics that I'm slipping up on, and fix the fundamentals that I'm not describing correctly. And it could be something that I had down and then let slide, because that happens with things. If you don't pay attention, you're not diligent in practicing them, a lot of those figure drawing understandings can fade if you're not practicing with a rigorous, regular discipline. I like both of these. The proportions are they're a little wonky, not super wonky. Also, part of it's that I didn't really describe the volume of the head, so it feels a little bit, because of it's indistinct. I can see that I did draw a head that seems kind of in proportion, but doesn't feel that way on here. And again, places where the arm, I drew what the light was doing instead of making the arm really feel like this back plane, like there should be more shadow on this side to make it feel like what I want, as opposed to drawing what I'm seeing. But I do like both of these drawings, so these two will go in the blog. The these are some 5-minute poses, but they've got a lot of energy to them. So I think that I will, in fact, scan or take pictures of all, this is whole page. I may take pictures of it in sections and post over a couple of days. Let's see here. There's some notes from class on the forearm and the muscles. These were copies of drawings from the instructor, so I'm probably not going to post those because I kind of think like the stuff that's drawn directly from my instructors, I tend not to want to post that because I look at it kind of like their intellectual property. So I'm sharing it here with you only to show you that it's something I'm not posting. Realistically, I probably would have gone ahead and just pulled it out beforehand, but I didn't have time or I forgot that they were in there. But I do definitely want to give credit where credit's due. Ron Velasco has been teaching our class of anatomy with light and tone at the Animation Guild. So, that was some of studies from his class demos. That's something I do sometimes when the instructor is giving a demo. I don't just sit and watch. I'll try to draw with them and try to replicate their results. Because I may be drawing and say, oh, wait, I don't understand this. And I can ask them while they're drawing, what am I doing wrong? Why didn't I get that? What are you really trying to say here? I do like these two drawings. This is one of those things where it's a very simple, unfinished drawing, but I like the gesture of it and the fact that I feel like I got a little bit of the volume of, not so much the leg coming forward, but the lower leg going down and back a little bit with the foot slightly raised. And like even this is what I'm talking about when I say working on the torso. Like I could literally do just, here's the upper arm, a circle shape for the joint, or I could do a square, the forearm and a box for the hand and the head, and then spend the whole rest of the time, like if all the other limbs were just that, and spend the rest of the time just working on the torso until I can really draw a beautiful torso from any angle. So I may be thinking about doing deep dives on that over the coming months. But yeah, this drawing's going to go in. I do like these two. Doing some deep dives on improving those structural things. These are some 5-minute poses, and they're kind of scrappy, not particularly solid. That happens a lot when I first start class. Some instructors don't believe in warm-ups. I kind of feel like when I first start drawing class, usually the first set, when a model's doing the first, 25 minutes of poses, that they generally come out pretty wonky. I do think I'll post these two. Again, simple, gestural, and volumetric. If I can get that down, then I feel like it's describing something. So most of the stuff I have in class doesn't have much finish to it. And that's also something I should probably look at and work towards, is drawing more finish. This, I think, is another drawing from one of Ron's demos, because I'm looking at this and unless I had my George Bridgman book out and was doing copies from that, this doesn't look like a level of detail or anatomy that I would put into a drawing. So I think that's what's going on with this page. So I don't think I'll put these up. Yeah, I think these are more class demo copies. This, I'm torn because the lighting feels like it's working in terms of describing the volume in the buttocks and the upper thigh on the left leg. And then on this leg, where there should be foreshortening, it just feels like I did, you know what? This is going to be a great drawing for me to go and redraw. When I do my figure drawing disasters, this one, particularly the foreshortening of this thigh, feels like there's a lot I can learn by redrawing and studying this. And the proportion's all wonky because the torso is stretched out. These hips feel too wide for these shoulders. Although part of that is also, yeah, because I feel like if this shoulder's going forward, then this arm should be coming back. But you don't really feel a sense of space of what's going on with how the torso is twisting. It's almost like I'm indicating that the upper torso is twisting either towards or away from us, but I'm not indicating which. So, it may come into one of those where I've got to go in and make decisions without providing myself enough information. So I won't put this one on the blog, but I think I will save this one and try to remember to come back to it and do a study from it. That was another thought that I had when I talk about how much finish I have on a drawing, is I try to put enough in there that if I have to come back and redraw it several times to study it, that I put enough information there that I can at least understand what it is I'm going to redraw. This is not a good drawing, but I did at least describe all of the body parts. Like even the head, I put in enough of a center line that I can know that it's facing towards, to the right and slightly down. I could come back in this drawing and redraw it and improve it. So I could come and do studies from that. I'm not going to post it, but I will point out that I did like the fact that I got a sense of volume in the kneecap here. Like the fact of it coming forward and then still going not away, but the fact that you've got the foreshortening of the upper thigh coming at you, and then the lower leg going still towards you, but slightly away, not as much of a direct foreshortening. So I feel like that's one of those things that I struggle with conveying. So I will, as much as I bitch about my figure drawing, if I do something like, oh, I should make a point to remember that I do have the ability to do it. So that way, when I don't do it, I can call myself out on it even more. Because, the whole point of these, like a lot of these that I'm sharing, and you've heard me say this before, is learning how to criticize your own work, not to beat yourself up, so that you can fix your problems and make better art. Because that's what we all want to do. That's the whole reason why I'm going to figure drawing classes, to become a better artist, and looking at my work and saying, oh, this is wrong, this is right, these are things I need to do better. Being attentive to that will help me correct my drawings, whether they're from my imagination or from figure drawing class, and produce better work. I don't think there's anything on this page that I really want to post. I think that these are me experimenting with really blocking in a dark side of the form and experimenting with shadow shapes a little bit. Because one of the things is when I think in terms of volumetric, more like animation drawings, I'm not thinking about large areas of black and thinking about shadow maps, but they can be extremely useful for describing the form. But I tend to think of it more just in terms of like simple animated lines, like how can I describe the volume with just a contour and minimal detail, which is funny because none of these are going to go in, but I put in way too many lines in most of my drawings. They're, I'd say, overdrawn and under-described would be a great way to describe my work in figure drawing class. But figure drawing class should be a safe place to make these kinds of mistakes. For the most part, when we're in class, we'll get up and walk around the room and look at each other's work, and everyone is kind of like a little bit bashful about their own work because they see their own flaws, but then other people will see and say, hey, that's a nice drawing. I like what you did there. And, we try to appreciate each other's work as well as share things that we see that say, oh, you might want to try this or try that. And you may not like that drawing, but I see something in here that's positive. It's a safe place to fail. And we need to have safe places to fail. And honestly, sharing my failures online, I want everyone else there to feel that the art world at large is not always about having perfect polished drawings, but about it being safe to fail if you're learning from it. So it's almost like that's my message to you guys. It's okay to fail at things, to make artwork that isn't good. Because I'm not presenting this like I'm saying this is my masterpiece and I want you to learn from it. I'm presenting it saying these are things I'm trying in order to learn, and I'm falling on my face. And I'm falling on my face in front of you guys so you can see, you have to. I'm not a master draftsman, but I'm never going to get to be as good as I want if I don't do the work. And I feel like sharing the process of doing that work, it creates an interesting conversation between all of us as artists in general. This one's going in. I like this. I think I posted a drawing last month showing a tone, that technique that Ron had shown with, where you rub down the page with charcoal first and then, smooth it over with a chamois, and then you pull your lights out with that. So you draw more dark lines into the charcoal, and then instead of drawing with white chalk, you can come in here with an eraser and erase that out. And I do like this one. Every time I've tried this technique, it gives me a really bold, strong sense of lighting. So I like that drawing. I'm going to put that in. Let's see. Now, this is interesting I did not pre-plan this, and I didn't think about this because I haven't really looked at these drawings since I posted them. But this drawing here, very much, it's not that her upper torso was all in shadow. It's just that I didn't get around to pulling the lights out for the rest of the form. But it does a nice job of describing the highlight in the buttocks, and then this leg coming down that's not completely flat, but more upright, as opposed to the foreshortening of the far leg going forward, and then as it crosses over, coming back. But what I was going to pull out was give me a sec here. There's a drawing I was just looking at. Which one? Oh. It's a different pile. I'm sort of sorting the drawings as I go because that's the whole point of me showing you these. Let's see here. I found what I was looking for. The drawing that I put aside that I said I wanted to come back and redraw later. Now, the poses are very different. Not very different, but the fact that the legs are crossed versus this one, they're separated. But still, the foreshortening that's going on in here with this leg coming forward and then going back into the distance and then coming forward in the lower leg is... This is what I feel like I'm successfully conveying what I poorly conveyed and failed at over here. Because in this, I don't know if it was just the way a case of me trying to draw what the light was doing instead of actually describing. But in this one, I get more of the foreshortening where it's these repeated cylindrical curves of the upper thigh going away into space, and then with it coming down, coming back out, and just the fact of this being much more in tone and then this being in light gives you that sense of like this being a bottom plane that's facing away, and then this being a top plane that's being lit. This describes what I feel much more successfully what I failed at here. And I also feel like just the treatment of the volumes in the leg that is more upright are much stronger in this one. So if you look at the comparison between these two, it's like this was the feeble attempt, different pose, but this is what I was going for. So I thought that was an interesting distinction that was worth pointing out. So let's see what else we got here. And yeah, that's going in the blog. And then just some torsos and boxes with me trying to think about the fact that I was like, yeah, I need to go back to these simple structures because I'm failing to get that basic solidity in my figure drawings in class. And that's the starting point. You start with this, and then you put all of the anatomy on top. Well, you start with the gesture. You start with that energy first, then you put that structure on top. Then you put the muscles on top of that, and then you render the lighting on top of that. But without gesture and basic volumes, you got mush. And my stuff's been feeling really mushy lately, and I'm aware of it. And I'm trying to be more diligent about it. So,
thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, please like and share them. Don't forget to click the subscribe button. You can sign up for my weekly newsletter to get a free digital comic at newsletter.jeremy.net. That's newsletter.gerimi.net. Also, visit my main website, jeremy.net, where you can buy my comic books, art prints, and more. There's also links to my Instagram, Twitter, and other social media accounts. That's it for now. Go be creative.